Today, let's talk about one of the three cardinal Christian spiritual practices. Those are, of course, fasting, prayer, and almsgiving. Today, let's talk about fasting. Now, for me, this is not an idle conversation. This is what I'm doing right now because the Lord has guided me to an increase in fasting in order to become who I'm meant to be. So let's listen to the words of the great patriarch of Constantinople, Saint Gennadius Scholarius. Here's what the saint says about fasting. Notice his first four words: love, hunger, and thirst for the sake of Christ. Insofar as you pacify your body, so much more will you make your soul virtuous. God, who rewards thoughts, words, and deeds, will give good in return for even a small thing that you gladly suffer for his sake. What I discovered while living on Mount Athos is that the canons of the Church absolutely require Orthodox Christians not only to abstain from food, but also from water. Not always, not every day, but for the first 3 days of Great Lent, according to the Typicon, all Orthodox Christians are required to fast from food and water. All, without exception. It's not a monastic canon. It's universally applicable. The monks explain this to me on Mount Athos. We do not fast from food and water during the first 3 days of Great Lent because we are monks. We do this because we are Orthodox Christians, and that's what the Typicon requires of all Orthodox Christians. So, bare minimum for Orthodox Christians, you must do a 3-day total fast, no food, no water, once a year. And on the Friday before Pascha. So Great and Holy Friday, likewise, the faithful entirely without exception, yes, including children. It's really serious, especially in Great and Holy Friday. No food, no water for anybody. And then that fast is broken by the liturgy, which is served in the morning of Great and Holy Saturday. And then there's one small meal to be eaten on Saturday evening, according to the Holy Canons. And so we understand then from the tradition of the Church, from the teaching of the saints, abstinence from food and water is necessary for Orthodox Christians. And St. Gennadius tells us to love, hunger, and thirst for the sake of Christ. Now, I confess to you that I'm a very weak man, and that because of my weakness, it is helpful if others know that I'm fasting so that they can support me in doing it. So I'll tell you, I have been very strongly encouraged by the saints, particularly St. Dimitri, that it's necessary for me to do a 7-day total fast. I'm now just over 50 hours, so it'll probably be, God willing, 7 days and a little bit, which means I have roughly 125 hours from now. So that's about 5 days. And I ask your prayers during this time as I strive to love, hunger, and thirst for the sake of Christ. Now, don't be alarmed, this isn't something I've never done before, done this a number of times, but returning to a greater rule of fasting, 7 days, God willing, 9 days, these things are, for me, just necessary in order for me to maintain a spiritual life, which allows me to have a clear conscience before God and to remain in harmonious communion with the Lord, with his mother, with the saints and angels, and with my fellow man. So I'm not doing this as some sort of a heroic show, but just as an attempt to love the Lord Jesus Christ and to serve him as we are meant to. So I ask that you pray for me as I have these 5 days remaining. And my hope is that by the combination of fasting, prayer, and almsgiving, that I may be spared hellfire and enjoy intimate communion with the Lord for all eternity. And of course, I wish for this to start not after my death, but now, in the body, because the Holy Fathers teach us very clearly, if you do not see Jesus Christ face to face in this lifetime, do not expect to see him face to face after you depart this life. That's the clear teaching, verbatim, of the saints. So the mortification of the flesh is simply necessary. And fasting, prayer, and almsgiving are actually in that order for a reason. Fasting is the ABCs. It's the most primary of the three. And the Fathers also teach us that it's the mother of all the virtues. So it's the beginning, it's the genesis of all of the virtues of a God-pleasing life. And what I found is that if I fast insufficiently, that my spiritual life weakens significantly, and I just can't tolerate that. So God help me to fast in a way that is God-pleasing. And my hope is also that I may make a contribution to all of you by making more videos when I'm fasting. Now, one of the challenges of fasting from food and water doesn't really happen if it's water only, but fasting from food and also fasting from water, so no food or drink, means that I am susceptible to losing my voice. So I'm going to try to be very judicious as I make videos this week to speak as little as I possibly can to others. And that is to say no idle conversation, whatever. My voice should be used for a spiritual purpose, like making this video, or for saying my prayers. And that's it during this time. So once again, I ask your prayers for my sinful soul. This sinner, Nathaniel, wishes to be saved, so I ask your prayers. And if you were so inclined to watch these videos, this one on fasting and the ones that are going to come subsequently, God willing, please comment, ask questions if you have. Feel free to share the video if there's somebody you know in your life who might be blessed by it. Be subscribed. Hopefully you'll get the notifications from YouTube that tell you I've uploaded a video. We'll see if that works or not. But in any case, thank you for your support. And when you do something like share a video or subscribe or like a video or donate to the channel, those things, I want you to know that none of that goes unnoticed by me, even if I don't say it a lot. I try not to do what some channels do. I try not to constantly ask for subscriptions and likes and what have you. But I want you to know that when you do that, when you do support this channel in whichever way, by sending a financial gift or liking or sharing or subscribing, what have you, I do notice and I am profoundly blessed and touched. But more than that, the Lord notices every good work, whether it's great or small. He notices all of it. And it's much better that the Lord notice your good works than that I do. But I thank you also for your attention and your support. So consider what role fasting ought to play in your life. I did fast before I lived on Mount Athos, but after I lived on Mount Athos, I learned to fast much more strictly. Let me tell you, seeing monks in their 80s and 90s fast more strictly from both food and water than I ever had as a strong, healthy young layman, my goodness, that really was a sufficient reprimand to my conscience. And so now I must return again to a longer fast in order to serve the Lord as he has called me. And I thank you for your attention and for your prayers. God be with you.